Hello, I'm Simon Adebisi and welcome to highlights of the 2012 Formula SimRacing World Championship. The Autodromo Nazionale Monza is the next circuit on the calendar. One of the oldest tracks in the world, the Italian Grand Prix is well known for its long straights. With the highest average speed of any other circuit on the calendar, this track is brutal on both the car's engines and brakes, and as low downforce is essential for a high top speed, the drivers will almost certainly struggle with understeer through some of Monza's difficult corners. Qualifying produced several surprises, starting with Jeffrey Rietveld, who achieved his first pole position, just beating out Gogo Baldi for the top spot. Joni Simoncic set the third fastest time for Ash Racing, and Ivar Calamise achieved fourth position in his maiden WC Grand Prix. Championship contenders Morgan Morand and Bono Huis could only manage 5th and 6th respectively, and making what will probably be a one-off appearance, Mikko Pumalainen would start from 7th place. Twister Racing's Peter Burlack qualified in 8th position ahead of Philip Puška in 9th, and Jon-Erik Saxon rounded out the top 10. Jim Parisas just missed out on Q2 to start in 11th, and temporarily replacing Varga, Martin Gosby set the 12th fastest time for Netrex. Yannick Lapchan had a difficult session, only managing 13th, and driving in his first race of the season, David Dominguez would start from 14th position. To the race start, and it was Joni Simoncic who got the best launch, getting alongside Gogo Baldi and then having half a look up Rietveld's inside. Parisas got his braking all wrong and took to the grass, while Calamise also broke a little too late, tapping the side of Simoncic. Philip Puška had made a great start, passing Burlack down the straight and then taking Pumalainen exiting the chicane. Down into the second chicane, and Morgan Morand quickly dispatched Calamise, making a pass for 4th place. And at the back of the field, Michael Francesconi and Blair Disley came together, ending with Francesconi's car in the barriers. Uros Musculi was swamped into Lesmo, losing out to both Marcel van der Linden and Jim Parisas. And down into the Parabolica, Martin Gosby put a move on Jon-Erik Saxon to take 10th place. Bono Huis then outbraked Ivar Calamise to take over 5th position, while further behind Musculi continued to struggle, losing positions on either side down the main straight to Alberts and de Wit. Lap 3, and as Jeffrey Rietveld maintained the lead, Gogo Baldi challenged Simoncic into the chicane, successfully retaking his 2nd place. Morand soon followed through as well, getting around Simoncic's outside before the 2nd chicane to move into 3rd. Morand immediately attacked Baldi, and on the following lap the Frenchman made an easy pass on the inside of the Hungarian. The other Netrex car was continuing to move up the order, with Martin Gosby making a pass on Burlack for 9th, and in the battle for 5th place, Philip Puška and Ivar Calamise were frantically fighting it out, and eventually the two made moderate contact, causing Pumalainen to nearly lock his brakes, losing a position to Gosby. Pumalainen would then fall into the hands of Peter Burlack, and after a brief fight, the Finn lost out into the opening chicane. Jim Parisas then retired, having suffered too much damage on the opening lap, and in 14th, Marcel van der Linden lost control out of the Ascari, hitting the wall hard and dropping down behind David Dominguez and Patrick de Wit, with de Wit soon passing Dominguez on the following lap to take 13th. In the race lead, Jeffrey Rietveld had established a solid 2.5 second gap over Morand. Bono Huis eventually managed to get around Simoncic with a pass into the opening chicane, and 2 laps later, Huis caught up to Baldi, with the Netrex driver desperately trying to maintain his position. However, he could not hold off the defending champion, with Huis making a pass into the Ascari. Jon-Erik Saxon seemed to be struggling for pace, losing 2 positions in 1 lap to both Lapchan and then de Wit. Patrick de Wit was continuing an impressive charge, passing Lapchan down the main straight to move up into 11th. In the battle for 5th, Puška and Calamise were still fighting hard with some very close racing. Eventually Calamise pitted, being the first driver to make a scheduled stop on what was clearly a 3-stop strategy. The race leaders began to pit on the following lap, with both Rietveld and Morand emerging in the midst of traffic. Rietveld crucially cleared Saxon after just 2 corners, while Morand was somewhat held up by those who were only 2 stopping. Meanwhile, a bad misunderstanding at Ash Racing had both of their cars enter pits on the same lap, with Puška being forced to wait, losing several seconds in the process. After all the drivers had completed their first stops, Rietveld had maintained his 2.5 second lead, though in the second stint, Morand was slowly but surely closing in on the Dutchman. Huis was in 3rd, but he seemed unable to close in on the leading pair. Gogo Baldi remained in 4th ahead of Joni Simoncic in 5th, and in the battle for 6th place, Martin Gosby had managed to leapfrog Ivar Calamise. However, the GT Amiga driver soon retook the position, only to lose it again after Calamaines outbroke himself into the chicane. Peter Burlack was in 8th place, though he had the 2-stopping Mikko Puumalainen close behind him, seemingly on a better strategy. However, a small mistake out of the second Lesmo was jumped on by Philip Puška, passing the Finn for 9th place. By lap 26, Morgan Moran had now caught right up to Jeffrey Rietveld's rear wing, with Rietveld taking the defensive line through the parabolica. The two then entered pit lane together with less than a car's length between them. Both drivers had identical stops, and as they emerged, Moran came dangerously close to touching the pit exit line. With Rietveld very much on the back foot, Moran enjoyed a healthy slipstream down into the second chicane, forcing Rietveld to take the defensive line. Rietveld locked up into the chicane and Moran quickly switched to the right side of the track. With the two side by side, Moran completed the move with a very aggressive pass through the first Lesmo, taking over the race lead. After the 3 stoppers had completed their second stops, Puumalainen was looking strong, now up into 4th place. Also on 2-stop strategies, Patrick de Wit was on track for a good points finish, now into 6th position, and Yannick Lapchan was now inside the top 10 in 9th place. However, with Martin Gosby just behind in a lighter car, the pair ended up fighting it out, with Gosby temporarily getting in front before losing the position again down the main straight. Sadly, things came undone later on in the lap when Gosby miscued his braking and the two made contact, spinning Lapchan's car around as Gosby took to the grass. Lapchan stalled the engine, ending his race, with Gosby later apologising for the incident after the Grand Prix. As Moran began to drive away with the lead, 3rd place Bono Huis was slowly catching up to Rietveld. Rietveld pitted first with a decent 2-second lead over Huis. However, with Huis driving a much better in-lap and making a faster stop, the gap had disappeared completely by the time Huis exited pit lane. With Rietveld very much on the defensive, the defending champion showed his class, moving to Rietveld's inside in the run down to the second chicane and making the pass look easy for 2nd place. Gogo Baldi was now in a lonely 4th position ahead of Mikko Puumalainen in 5th, whose 2-stop strategy had worked nicely. Joni Simoncic was in 6th, with Patrick de Wit now up into 7th. Gosby was clear in 8th position, but there was a congested battle going on for 9th place. Philip Puška and Peter Burlack had begun passing each other on multiple occasions, with both drivers seemingly equal on pace and unable to escape far enough ahead to avoid giving the other driver a slipstream. After passing each other several times, Peter de Wit had now caught up to them, and with 5 laps remaining, de Wit managed to pass Burlack into the parabolica, dropping the Twister racing car out of the points. However, Burlack wouldn't give up, and the pair also switched positions several times, with neither driver willing to yield. As the two fought it out, Puška escaped ahead, while de Wit continued to attack Burlack in the closing stages of the race. Meanwhile, after a great Grand Prix, Patrick de Wit's brakes started to wear thin, and the McCord driver was forced to massively ease off his pace, dropping him down the order. De Wit had just managed to get back out in front of Burlack when they caught up to the struggling de Wit. Unfortunately, Burlack was held up badly through the Ascari, losing contact with de Wit, and as they came to the parabolica, de Wit's brakes gave out. He clipped Burlack and slid helplessly into the tyre barriers, just 2 laps shy of the finish line. Coming from 5th on the grid, Go Speed's Morgan Moran took his 3rd win in a row, driving another solid race and putting Bono Huis under a little bit more pressure in the fight for the championship. Huis crossed the line just 2 seconds behind his main rival, achieving his 8th podium of the season, minimising the damage to his championship campaign. And despite a brake failure on the final lap, Jeffrey Rietveld took yet another podium in 3rd place, the GT Amiga racing driver continuing his incredible form. Gogo Baldi finished a rather uneventful race in a solid 4th position. Mikko Puumalainen achieved 5th place in his first race in over 4 months, and Joni Simoncic demonstrated that he can mix it with the best, crossing the line in 6th position. Martin Gosby did a great job as NetRex's reserve driver to take 7th place. Philip Puška was able to take 8th position despite his problems during the first pit stop. Peter de Wit had to start from the back row of the grid but kept his nose clean, steering clear of all incidents to finish in 9th, and Peter Burlack finished a highly eventful race, picking up the final point. Taking a look at the Drivers' Championship standings, Bono Huis is now just 22 points clear of Morgan Moran, less than the value of a race win. Rasmus Tali was absent today, but nonetheless holds on to 3rd. Jeffrey Rietveld has rocketed up the points table and is now incredibly up into 4th position, while Gogo Baldi's solid result has pushed him clear into 5th place. Fredrik Nilsson's continued absence has dropped the Swede into 6th, and none of the other drivers in the top 10 picked up any points today. Precision Motorsports continue to move further into the lead and are now fairly close to securing the Constructors' Championship. GT Amiga Racing's continued solid form has led them to take over second place in the standings, and Moran's third win on the trot has advanced GoSpeed up into equal third position, with ATR failing to score any points today. Twister Racing remain in fifth, and once again Netrex has swapped positions with MacCore, Netrex now with the upper hand in sixth position, and Ash Racing's strong performance today has advanced them up into eighth place. The next race will be the German Grand Prix, and you can watch that race live as it happens at SimRace TV on the 16th of September at 4 PM GMT. And don't forget to check out Formula Sim Racing on both Facebook and on Twitter, as well as the Formula Sim Racing Fantasy League by following the links on screen. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I'm Simon Adebisi, and we'll see you next time for round 11 of the 2012 Formula Sim Racing World Championship.